Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lifespan Growth Insights, Lessons in Development from the Classroom and Life. Each year, teachers have that one student, the one who challenges your patience, your strategies, and sometimes even your confidence. Somehow, every year seems new. This year, for me, that student is named Antonio. He is loud, disagreeable, and highly opinionated. But working with him this year taught me more than just classroom management. It supported my own journey as a parent, an educator, and as an adult in general. Today, I want to share what I've learned from our interactions this year about development, empathy, and balance between helping others and caring for yourself. My name is Gina Padilla. I'm a single mother of two adult children, ages 22 and 24. Together, we live what most would call a normal life. And I am also currently a teacher, 5th grade, in Gwinnett County. I'm in the emerging to middle adulthood stage of life, which many would call midlife. Over the past 20 years, I've devoted most of my energy to raising my children, other people's children, and teaching and supporting others in general. While I have achieved stability, my children are thriving, my career is successful, I began to notice the long-term effects of living in survival mode. Fatigue, emotional exhaustion, and a diminished sense of self-efficacy. This stage of life has been particularly difficult because I also lack the family support systems. My own mother passed away before I became a parent, and most of my family is spread out across the United States. So I've had to cultivate my own network, and through my church and spiritual community, to provide support, fellowship, and guidance along the way. Balancing self-care with the needs of others has been challenging, and it's a journey that parallels what I see in many of my students each year. Let's talk a little bit about my students, about Antonio. He's a 10-year-old, the middle child of 3 siblings, and has been displaying behavioral challenges consistently since early childhood, according to his records. In my 5th grade classroom, I use something called a Tell Me box, an anonymous way for students to share thoughts, concerns, and compliments. Early in the year, many of those notes were about Antonio. Peers were asking to move away from him, to be not chosen to collaborate or partner with him, and sometimes even just questions why he's responding to basic instructions in such disruptive ways. Mocking, questioning, and just generally interrupting. The behavior is consistent across multiple settings and seems to be reinforced by attention, something Bandura's social learning theater helps us understand. Despite campus-wide PBIS supports, counselor interventions, and accommodations, Antonio still struggles with self-regulation and negative self-talk, sometimes out loud. And this often leads to other off-task behaviors throughout the day. I'm currently reading the book by Patricia Miller titled Theories of Developmental Psychology. Within this text, Miller shares several developmental theorists, and their insights align well with Antonio's behaviors. It also helped me consider strategies and supports for improving both his classroom behavior as well as his overall educational experience. According to Piaget, Antonio is in the concrete operational stage, which means he struggles to link the present tasks to future goals. He often asks questions like, why are we doing this? What's the point? Well, the research shows that children in this stage benefit from structured, observable experiences rather than some of the abstract instructions and ideas that are in our current curriculum. This explains the questioning, although sometimes frustrating, apparently developmentally appropriate. Also, when completing a writing assignment, Antonio needs clear step-by-step guidance and visual examples or models of the end product in order to remain engaged. According to Bandura, children learn behaviors through observation. This added a little bit of additional insight. He said they also need reinforcement. Antonio's past negative behaviors likely persist because they previously earned him the attention he was desiring and allowed him to avoid the work, causing additional behavior reinforcement. To address this, I paired him with some positive peer models during core instruction. He could see examples of focus, appropriate communication, and some problem-solving skills in action, which helped him to adopt more constructive behaviors in the classroom setting. Erik Erikson's middle childhood as a stage is considered industry versus inferiority. This is where children develop competence and a sense of achievement. To support this theory, I intentionally gave Antonio responsibilities, such as leading transitions and distributing some materials. This was hoping to be fostering confidence and increase his sense of industry. These small successes were intended to reinforce his self-worth. Vygotsky emphasized a zone of proximal development within his sociocultural theory. The difference between what a child can do alone and what a child can do with support and guidance. Building his self-confidence in tandem with pairing him with peers and providing explicit instruction gave him opportunities to gradually become more self-sufficient. Finally, I came across Kurt Fisher's dynamic skills theory. This theory emphasizes that children can perform at high levels when scaffolding is present. Fisher calls this process bridging. Bridging is gradually building skills from a supported performance to an independent performance. My colleagues and I refer to this often as gradual release of responsibility. And I even give this idea to parents in the beginning of the year as we start to transition them into their secondary education mindset. Antonio thrives when peer support is given, but struggles to work alone. Using this process of gradual release, or what Fisher calls bridging, I slowly reduced scaffolds and gave him small steps towards independence. Using these strategies, I observed meaningful improvements in the classroom. He had fewer negative outbursts, comments, mocking, questioning. There was a marked increase in engagement during reading and collaboration activities, where even his peers were more willing to engage in these activities with him. There was a gradual willingness to complete assignments independently, although there is still some scaffolding involved, extra time, or occasional peer assistance. However, independent seat work still remains a challenge, showing that development is nonlinear and context dependent. This reflects what Fisher's theory said. Skill levels vary depending on support and the environment. Watching Antonio grow made me reflect on my own development. Like my students, I've spent decades prioritizing others. While students are always trying to meet the needs and requirements of those around them, like teachers or parents, I've tried to live in survival mode for almost 20 years, raising my children, teaching other people's children, mentoring coworkers and aspiring teachers, and generally supporting my community. This focus, while rewarding, led me to neglect my own physical and emotional needs. Culturally, I'm a bit disconnected from my ancestry, which added to the sense of isolation. To counteract all of this, I built a spiritual community that has supported me emotionally and socially. My current stage of life aligns with Erickson's generativity versus stagnation. I've realized that continuing to focus solely on others at the expense of myself leads to stagnation. That's where I got stuck. I need to create my self efficacy and work on my own self well being. To build this self efficacy, I implemented some small, consistent exercise routines in my own life. In the morning, I start a little slower. I do some stretching or light aerobics at home and ease into the day. In the evening, I take walks on a local track, on some paths, or in the neighborhood with my dog. Occasionally, walking with my daughter or church colleagues help me build social structures and accountability. I tracked my progress on a dry erase board that I set up like a calendar and shared it with my community. This practice integrates Bandura's self-efficacy using social persuasion and accountability, Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, using learning and motivation through interaction, and of course, Fisher's dynamic skills theory, taking small steps, doing things together, and eventually on my own. My goal was 5 walks per week. While I didn't meet it consistently, I saw some meaningful progress. There is some reduction in my stress level. I'm a little bit nicer to be around. Increased confidence in my ability to sustain habits. This self-efficacy, I'm finally believing that I can take time out for myself to build myself stronger in order to help the others that I would like to help. And I'm strengthening my social support through shared routines, inviting friends along or asking them to come for accountability builds that social support system that I've been looking for. These small successes remind me that growth takes time and requires scaffolding, accountability, and patience. Principles I also apply with all of my students, including Antonio. Moving forward, I plan to gradually increase independent routines for myself, getting out on my own, setting schedules, maybe even going to a gym. And for Antonio, doing the same, slowly releasing him to get that seat work into his self-efficacy. I'm going to maintain the social supports for encouragement. And as the class starts to come around to the idea of working with Antonio, it seems it will do the same for him. I'm going to personally prioritize generativity, my own personal health, and take time for self-care. I'm going to incorporate better eating habits and a little bit more rest, stricter bedtimes for long-term sustainability and health goals. By applying developmental principles to myself, I can continue to guide students and support my community with more empathy and understanding. Development is a lifelong process. Working with Antonio reminded me that growth requires scaffolding, modeling, and reflection. Whether you're a child in a school or an adult trying to navigate life outside the classroom. By supporting both my students and myself, I'm learning that nurturing development and self-care go hand in hand. Thank you for watching. And before I let you go, think about your own growth and the bridges you might be able to use to build, both for yourself and for those that you support. Acts of kindness that feel small to us have big impacts on others. Adam Grant. I think we can do the same for ourselves.